Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dan Hansen with another episode of How Not to Suck at the Stocks. This episode is on Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. So, the author says that he was the titular economic hitman who would be sent into places like Venezuela or Panama or Iran, and it'd be his job to convince the leadership there through the use of economic forecast. That's what this guy was. His title was an economist. To convince the leader to take out a huge loan from the World Bank or the IMF to fund a massive economic project such as a power plant or a dam. And so these forecasts would say, hey, you're going to have 18, 20% GDP growth for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And if the forecasts weren't high enough, his bosses would tell him to, those are rookie numbers. You got to goose those numbers up. And if people didn't want to play ball, if other economic hitman, economists, whatever you want to call them, if they refused to goose the numbers, they'd get fired. It didn't matter if there was a basis in reality. It just mattered that you could convince these third world leaders to buy in to your forecasts. And so, what would invariably happen if the leader did accept the economic proposal is, well, one, so they'd borrow the money from the World Bank or the IMF, and then use American construction companies to build the project. So the money would leave the U.S. and then go right back to the U.S. So basically, from the taxpayer to the corpocracy. And then the country would default on the loan, and once the country has defaulted, they are now under American imperial rule, economic rule. And so it was a country by country basis, and what the corpocracy was after. It could have been UN votes. It could have been deregulation of local, labor laws, environmental laws. It could have been, oil reserves. It could have been water reserves, agricultural land, whatever the case may be. Now that's if the third world leader accepted the proposal. What happens if they didn't? That's where the jackals would come in. The jackals are CIA operatives who would put a bomb on your plane or just fucking come at you with machine guns. And if that didn't work, that's when the U.S. military would be sent in. So the author explains that's what happened with Saddam Hussein in Iraq. That's what happened in 1989 when America invaded Panama. Let's see. An example that was a little bit different was Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia didn't need the money from the World Bank. Saudi Arabia was already rich. But after the oil embargo, America was trying to figure out, okay, what's a way we can breed codependency between us and Saudi Arabia to kind of bring them under heel. And so they went there and saw that Saudi Arabia had pretty shitty infrastructure. They had goats cleaning up the trash, for Christ's sake, because the Saudi Arabians would not lower themselves to pick up their own trash. So America was like, okay, well, you can buy our garbage trucks. And so that was just kind of the beginning of using American engineering to boost up Saudi Arabian infrastructure to build codependency so there wouldn't be any more oil embargoes like there were in the 70s. That's one example. What else did I talk about? Oh, Iran, that's the one where we overthrew the democratically elected leader, put in our own guy. I believe he was the Shah, and then he was overthrown by the Ayatollah who's still there. And so it's really a fascinating book. It just talks about all these world events, like I mentioned, the Iraq War, the Panama invasion, Iran, and he kind of gives his own spin on why those events happened. And honestly, I'm reading it going, that makes a lot more sense than what I learned in school. That makes a lot more, if we even talked about it, which of course we didn't. In American history, we'd start at the Revolutionary War, and then we'd get to World War II, and then every year it was just like, okay, have a nice summer. That's the it. We never quite got to Cold War and Vietnam and invading Latin American countries for their canals and such. In any case, I don't know if this book is true. Obviously, I don't. It definitely fits my worldview, which is a dangerous kind of thing. I tried to debunk it. I really couldn't see anything debunking it. I looked on YouTube. I really couldn't find, people speaking out against it, saying it was a big fraud. I did find negative reviews, but the negative reviews were basically just saying, "Oh, the author spends too much time on his personal life," which is true. I mean, the author wastes a lot of time talking about who he fucked and like his cat and whatever, and that is definitely the weakest part of the book. But overall, the book is fucking amazing. It's a barn burner. I had to finish it because it was just so fucking depressing. It was keeping me up at night. Yeah, just how fucking sad it is. So, but my point is, if you know this guy's full of shit, if you work in that field or you have some inside knowledge, or you've done your own research, let me know. Tweet me at Hanson Asset. Let me know that this, or you can comment on YouTube. I'm putting this on YouTube. Just let me know. Oh, this guy's full of shit. Here's a cool source. Here's a cool video, article, blog, podcast, whatever. I'd love to learn more. I'd love it to be wrong. I'd love if it turned out that John Perkins was full of shit and just trying to sell copies of his book. But I have to admit, it does line up with pretty much everything else I've ever read about American imperialism. So, in any case, highly recommend the book. Yeah, that's really it. Have a good day.